Public executions were once the ultimate spectacle, gruesome, chilling, and shockingly popular. Nowhere was this more true than at London's infamous Tyburn Gallows. Here, justice and entertainment collided in ways that would be unthinkable today. It was a place where power was displayed through brutal punishment, where executioners became legends, and where the condemned faced horrifying ends before jeering crowds. In this journey through history, we will uncover the dark secrets of Tyburn's bloody legacy, a place that defined fear, control, and death itself. The rise of Tyburn Gallows, London's death center. Imagine a place where death was a spectacle, where crowds gathered in the thousands to witness human life violently extinguished. That place was Tyburn, a name synonymous with death and infamy in London's history. Located at the crossroads now known as Marble Arch, Tyburn Gallows stood as the ultimate symbol of royal authority and public justice. It first appeared in historical records in 1196, but by the early 16th century, it had become the most notorious execution site in England. Known as the Tree of Tyburn due to its peculiar triangular structure, the gallows allowed multiple hangings simultaneously, sometimes as many as 24 souls at once. This architectural choice was no accident. It was designed to maximize fear and reinforce royal power. In an age where justice was public and brutal, Tyburn served as a grim reminder of the consequences of defying the crown. From petty thieves to political traitors, the condemned were paraded through the streets in a cart, jeered at by the roaring crowds who treated the executions as a form of public entertainment. But Tyburn was not just a place of death, it was a stage where moral lessons were performed. It was a place where the state displayed its authority and where society's boundaries of right and wrong were brutally enforced. Yet, as the noose tightened around each neck, the question lingered, was this justice or merely bloodthirsty spectacle? Tyburn's executioner, the faces of death. In the shadow of Tyburn's towering gallows, one figure loomed larger than death itself, the executioner. Feared and despised, yet indispensable, these men were the final arbiters of life and death. Executioners at Tyburn were both feared and necessary, wielding the power to grant a quick death or a prolonged, agonizing end. They were paid through tips from the condemned, desperate for a merciful death. This grim transaction was an open secret, recorded in historical accounts as the price of a good death. Despite their importance, executioners were social outcasts, forbidden from regular work and shunned by the public. Yet on hanging days, they were grim celebrities, commanding both fear and fascination. They stood as the embodiment of state power and human mortality, forever etched in the folklore of London's bloody past. The most horrific executions in Tyburn's bloody history. Tyburn witnessed countless grim spectacles, but few were as politically charged as the posthumous execution of Oliver Cromwell. In a brazen display of power, his corpse was exhumed and publicly hanged before being beheaded in 1661. This was no ordinary execution, it was a calculated message from the restored monarchy, demonstrating that even death could not shield a traitor from royal vengeance. Cromwell's head was then displayed on a spike above Westminster Hall, a stark reminder to any who dared defy the crown. Yet the horror of Tyburn extended beyond political figures. Women, in particular, faced Tyburn's merciless justice in ways that underscored societal inequities. One of the most notorious cases was Elizabeth Brownrigg in 1767. Convicted of the brutal abuse and murder of her servant Mary Clifford, her execution shocked London. Brownrigg's crime was heinous, involving prolonged torture and starvation. The public outrage was so intense that it sparked debates about the mistreatment of apprentices and servants, revealing the darker side of domestic servitude in Georgian England. Her death was not merely punishment, it was a public spectacle meant to restore moral order and serve as a deterrent. Another harrowing example was Catherine Hayes, burned at the stake in 1726 for the murder of her husband, a punishment reserved for women convicted of petty treason. In a horrifying display, she was chained to a stake, surrounded by kindling, and set ablaze. Unlike male traitors who were hanged, drawn, and quartered, women faced the pyre, a method meant to destroy not just the body but the legacy of the crime. But Tyburn's grim role was not confined to individual punishments, It was also a powerful tool of political repression. After the Jacobite rebellions, scores of Scottish rebels faced severe penalties here, publicly punished as traitors. The most dreaded punishment was being hanged, drawn, and quartered, a fate reserved for high treason. The condemned were subjected to extreme measures that symbolized the crown's unwavering authority. Their remains were strategically displayed as stark warnings against disloyalty. This calculated severity was meant to quash rebellious spirits and serve as a chilling reminder of royal power. The end of Tyburn Gallows, a dark era closes. After centuries of infamy, the final execution at Tyburn took place on November 3, 1783, marking the end of an era filled in blood and show. John Austen, found guilty of highway robbery, was the last to face the noose at this famous site. His death ended a chapter lasting over 600 years, where countless lives were ended under the careful watch of cheering crowds. But this ending was not just the end of a place, it showed a big change in public thinking toward justice and punishment. Tyburn's ending was pushed by rising public mess during executions. The once serious events had turned into wild gatherings, with food sellers and drunk crowds treating death as entertainment. Social activists began to blame the cruelty and the fair-like atmosphere, saying that such shows made the public hard-hearted instead of stopping crime. In response, the government decided to move executions to Newgate Prison, away from the public eye. This move was not just for arrangement, it was meaningful, showing a change towards a more polite form of justice. Yet, the effect on society was complicated. While Tyburn's ending marked growth, public hangings continued in England until 1868, showing that change was slow and mixed. Tyburn Gallows was a stage of power and punishment, where life ended before the eyes of a focused crowd. It showed the cruel justice of its time, a show meant to control through fear. Yet, its fall marked a change in humanity's search for justice and kindness.